Hello everyone, we're going to be doing a easy and simple stencil tutorial today, nice and cheap. So if you don't have any fabric paints or a printer or anything like that, I'm going to show you how to put stencils onto stuff dead cheap, just using tape, a sponge and your PC or phone or any other device that has a screen thing. Step 1, get the things you want to print. Step 2, get them to the right size to fit on your things. Here we have one of the Empire runes for loyalty and one for something that isn't loyalty. As you can see, a bit too big, won't fit on there. So we need to shrink them down. Now I only have paint, so obviously this is quite a rudimentary way of doing it. Just click and drag. Click and drag. Obviously it messes up the overall image, but because these don't have massive amounts of detail on them, it doesn't really matter. Now that is still slightly too big. So shrink it down again, just a little bit. Now let's have a look at that. Making sure that they're the right side out. Yeah, that'll do. Cool, so now we've got our sizing down. Step 2. Draw them out with something. Now what I would like to say is make sure that you're not using a Sharpie that will go through your piece of paper. As you can see on my screen, I did one with a Sharpie and the dots will never go away. Most of the time, because I'm doing more complex designs, I do actually sellotape the bit of paper to the screen. Now if you're doing a really complex design, you want to try and stick to the lines as much as possible, but because this one is fairly simple, I can just quickly get them down for positioning, then go over it in a minute to clarify the lines. Yeah, my back. So old. Remember as well that if you're using a biro, biros don't work upside down. So try and use something like a pencil. Pencil would actually probably be better for doing this, to be honest. Like this. Oh, my back's going again. And there we have it. We have our stencils, or the outlines for our stencils. Okay, so what we actually have is we have wisdom and loyalty. Cool. So we've got those there. Again, you can clarify the lines if you want. I'm not going to because they're pretty simple things. Then get yourself some of this sellotape. Double-sided sellotape. Don't get the foam stuff, it doesn't work. It's super thin. And it is brilliant for doing this kind of thing. So then you just cover the back of your design. Make sure you cover the entire design with double-sided tape. Easiest way to make sure you've done that is hold it up to the light, and if you can see your design around the tape, you haven't gotten it all. Try and match up the edges as much as possible just to conserve resources, in this case said tape. And of course I missed a tiny little chunk down the bottom, so let me get this bit off here, just chuck that in there. Right, so holding it up to the light, we have now got all of our design covered. Just going to put a tiny little snippet just at the top, so I just caught the very tip. Just the tip there. Cool, so that's that one done. Nice and easy. This one a little bit more complex. So if I just mark the edge areas here quite harshly with my pen, that way I will be able to know on the other side of the paper where the extremities are. Yugi boy. Little Yu-Gi-Oh joke. You Yu-Gi-Oh fans out there. Well, that's the end of that roll of tape. It's quite lucky I had another one. Tip number 2. Bet that was fucking loud. So yeah, so it's a really simple process for just making stencils, and you can do this for anything really. My plan is to do this for our vehicle and actually put the Star Wars logo on the bonnet, the Kylo Ren one, obviously because Kylo Ren, and have a first order bonnet stencil. Halfords do some spray paint that's removable, which is quite cool, because before I knew you had to do something using like PVA glue and acrylic, and you had to do a certain mixture or something that would easily stick, but you can peel it off after a while, but that's a lot of hassle. So then what you do is obviously just cut out your design. Make sure you've got a nice sharp blade. Alternatively, if you want to do it the other way around and you want like a sprays type stencil, you can cut out your design with a pair of scissors, because you only really need the inside. Cut that out, and then you can stick it down and spray around it, which is kind of cool. Nice and easy. I've made some cool designs that way. The design on our banner design is actually done this way. Took me a very long time. Took me about 2 hours to do, because it's a very complex design. But in a minute, once I've done this, I will show you my Future's End banner. I don't think I've shown you guys that yet properly. Yeah, I will show you that. So it should now all just pop out. So there we have one stencil. Got an interior one as well, so that's obviously Wisdom. Boom, done. And then I'm just going to whack out the Loyalty one. But now that you've seen how you cut things with a craft knife, I don't think I need to show you that one. So by the magic of editing, 3, 2, 1. Yeah. Okay, so I cut these out. Now I'm going to start with Loyalty because it's the main one. So I'm going to put this up to where I think it would look best. I want it to stay inside of the seam lines here from when I sewed these bad boys. So I probably want it to be about here. Now we get the fun of peeling off all of double-sided sellotape. Now the reason why this kind of sellotape works best is because it's so thin, it creates a plastic waterproof barrier, or in this case paint proof. I suppose you might be able to do it with something like bleach, but I don't know. I tend to use fairly thick paints when doing this, so unwatered down fabric paints. So I know a lot of people water them down when they use them to get more life out of them, but I don't bother when doing this. And poster paint, stuff like that. If you use poster paints or acrylic paints like I'm going to do now, they're quite good for distressed paintworks, because on fabrics after a while it will literally just rub off or flake off, which means that you never get a solid image for very long, which in some instances is exactly what you want. Now being Navarre as well, Navarre kind of like the apocalypse people of the Empire universe, as they don't really have a home, they wander around, some of them scavenge, that kind of stuff. They're kind of rangers, so having something that isn't perfect kind of makes a bit more sense, more practicality than anything else. So we're going to have this here, try and keep that in line with the other bit. Just press it down, making sure that you don't get any creases in your paper. Make sure as well obviously that the fabric is well ironed first. Then what you can just do is you can just use sellotape or just hold them in place while you're going to be stenciling. I don't particularly want paint on the back of this, like on the actual wood, because I'm going to be using that to do other stuff on today, and I don't really want to get any extra on the fabric. So then what we do is we just get our white, again just acrylic, bit of a sponge. I had a sponge, there's my sponge. Start very lightly, because this material is quite thin, it is literally just bed sheet. I'm going to need to put it on in a couple of layers, because if I put it on thick it's just going to go straight through and will stain the other side, and I don't want to do that. Whereas if I just dab it lightly, it'll take a long time to build up the layers, but it does mean that the colour will last a little bit longer, although this is really just for one event for Sophie. But it will hold for a fair amount of time, without it going flaking too much. But it should still look quite cool. Right, so there we go. That's number one done. Now these stencils, the way that I do them, okay, I can't see any that's come through, which is quite good. These stencils, the way that I do them, they are only single use. So when I pull this off now, it is basically just going to tear up. If you're very careful, you can probably get away with using it maybe twice, but that's probably about it. I did just catch the fabric there, which is annoying. Or if you make the actual stencil out of something better than paper, so if you made it out of like OHP plastic, or even some plastic film, that might work a lot better. But again, for a cheap, quick stencil, that's one of them. Just try and get that acrylic out of there. There we go, that should be fine. But yeah, so that is your stencil. Now I'm going to do the other one as well. These are a set of sleeves with tassels, sleeve tassels. I don't really know what else to call them. So when you stand with your arms in front of you like this, they'll tassel down and look quite nice for photographs. But that's one of them. The other one will look very similar. And yeah, I will show you them both once I've done them both. Okay, so we've got both of our runes now stenciled on. Now, aftercare of them, something that I never really used to do that much until all my designs started coming off. But basically, when using fabric paints, it's best just to lay a bit of paper over the top and iron them on. Now, I'm not using fabric paints, I'm using acrylic, so I don't really know what this does to it, but it's quite a good practice just to get into, so that every single time you do it, you never forget to go over them again and just make sure that it's really ironed in. Also flattens out the area, making the image a lot nicer for photos. So there we go, there's one of them done there. Whenever you as well iron, don't ever iron downwards and then move it across, because you might get some bleed over on the ink. So always flip it over, as Missy Elliott would say, and reverse it. Let's give that a nice solid iron. And I think with fabric paint it's normally about 30 seconds per kind of bit of ironing space. I don't really know what I'm saying anymore. But that will be those done now. If you go into the pledge ball and you are watching this, you'll be able to see those on Nim. Nim should hopefully be wearing these. If not, let me know, because I spend time making these out of my life. My very, very difficult life. But obviously I've got so much more that I need to be doing. But I'm going to quickly show you the flag that I made. Okay, so please ignore all of the crap around here, but anyone who makes anything knows that this is basically what your front rim ends up looking like, regardless of how much you try. So for Future's End, I will be part of a Fallout themed or Wasteland themed group called the NER, the New European Republic, obviously based off the NCR. At the bottom here we have got, if I move out the sunlight, we've got some coffee, can't even see that, can you? We've got like some coffee staining just down at the bottom here. Some nice dark browns, and we've got tea stain let to soak in overnight. We've got a nice tide mark moving all the way along. We've then got, well, we've got some other little points just around the edges. All around the edges has as well been stained with a black wash, so literally black acrylic paint, loads of water in it, and just let it soak in around the tops. A couple of tear marks as well, but this is all done through the exact same style, all cutting it out freehand. That two-headed stag was a fucking chore. But again, really, really happy with the result. Probably take maybe a bit of sandpaper to it just to get rid of the image a little bit. But this is all actually done with fabric paints, not acrylics. Sorry, in case I said acrylics, I can't remember now. I don't think I did. But yeah, this is our flag for Future's End. And then for Empire, I don't know if anyone who's watching this has been walking through the woods and has ever seen this bad boy. This is the Ruus Farkas flag, which is our group's flag. Obviously it's a lovely tree into a wolf design, with kind of a bit of a kami going on there, I think. My brother actually designed it. Let me just move you back a little bit. My brother actually designed it. It's a cross of the Gondorian tree and obviously the Akami wolf, but it's beautiful. Everyone loves this design who sees it. And yeah, I love it. It's got our three lines across the bridge of the nose as well, all done as well, exactly the same thing. Fabric paints and a bit of acrylic as well, acrylic eyes, but all done the exact same stenciling method, so it can be as complex or as simple as you want it to be, entirely up to you. But if you did like this video and you learned something here, which hopefully you did, hit that like button. If you want to be kept up to date with all my building stuff and my LARP creations, hit that subscribe button and keep building.